The Daily Video Journal's back. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Caroline Zook. Jason Zook.
I just kind of blanked when
Yeah.
you turned to me. I don't know where my head was, but it wasn't here. But
Welcome-
now I'm here.
Welcome to The Tonight Show with Jason and Carol. That would be
I
weird.
wish we had the roots playing.
So we have some topics to go over, and probably the big looming one is the fact that there's a lot of stuff that happened in the world, and we put a pause on our BuyOurFuture project and selling it for an entire week, which was tough for all of the moving parts we had going, but it's a lot tougher for the people that are affected by these things.
Totally. And if you watch the video, then you know that it just didn't feel right to us to continue selling things and going about business as usual when some really huge impactful things happened in the world. And we know that that stuff unfortunately happens, more often than we would like. But just for that particular event, we just didn't feel right pushing sales messages all week. So we just hit pause. And like Jason said, it was complicated. We had to, kind of retool everything from the buying window, which is completely different now, to the email sequence, all of those things. But again, very small inconveniences compared to the, life-changing events that happened to the people directly affected. So that stuff is stuff that we can do. And it felt like the right thing to do to shine a light on some of these, not just the Vegas event, but the natural disasters and things like that. So we just wanted to use what little attention we had last week to kind of redirect it to those causes that were in need. So now we are back.
Yep, and I think that the interesting thing just to note on that is if you're launching a project, if you are selling anything, if you especially have an open and closed time window like we have, something always happens. Always. No matter what, no matter how perfect something is, no matter how well timed you think it's going to be, there's always something out of your control that happens. And you just have to be willing to say, okay, I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to figure it out. And this specific circumstance was it was something that was really important that we needed to put a pause on. So it also made it difficult for us just to see how many people course corrected so quickly. The day after, everyone was almost back to normal, selling their thing or pushing their thing. And not that there's anything wrong with that per se, but I think just for us, we just, we get to choose what we do. We're entrepreneurs. We own our own businesses. We make those decisions. So why not make the decision to actually pump the brakes a little bit?
That was one thing I did want to point out, is just a reminder, and you're really good at reminding me this, when you are in the midst of those things and you're going, I just remember on Monday being like, Jason, what do we do? How do we continue doing this when it doesn't feel right? And remembering you make the rules. So even though you have this deadline in your head and you have this way that you thought it was all going to work, we sometimes as entrepreneurs seem to internalize those things as if someone, a boss, mandated them upon us, or some other force has said this is the way that it must be. And just to take a step back and remind yourself, wait a second, I make the rules, I run my business, I get to decide what I do with it. And so if something doesn't feel right, I get to just, completely retool everything and take actions that do feel right. And that's exactly what we did.
So how did we shift things? What are we doing? What's the new plan? All those things. So really last week, we kind of we didn't even think about it. I mean, we talked about it a little bit, but it was just, there was so much other stuff we wanted to focus on. Getting messages out and all those things. Not going to repeat all that stuff, but that's what we spent kind of last week focusing on. And then really this weekend, we started chatting about BuyOurFuture again, trying to figure out what we would do. We had all these emails kind of planned and written. And so those were good to have planned and written, that we could kind of just say, okay, great. Now we just adjust all the dates. So that's what we're doing. So this week, as of today, we're extending the deadline till Friday. So October 13th is the last day BuyOurFuture will be open. So it's really only a 3-day extension, even though we lost pretty much an entire week. But we have an email going out every single day, which we normally never do. But it's during a launch. It's during selling the most important thing to us. And the emails that we send out are really about trying to provide value, but also show the value of BuyOurFuture. So today was an email about how you can use specific steps to recoup your investment and even 10x your investment in BuyOurFuture, which we enjoyed kind of putting together because it helped us think all right, well, what products should people look forward to and use and put into play? Tomorrow is a fun video, which we'll talk about in tomorrow's video journal, video thing that we're doing. And then Wednesday, we have some bonuses. There's always some bonuses in a launch. And then Thursday, what's our Thursday email? Do you remember? Oh, the live Q&A.
The live Q&A, and that one's more of a...
Is that the objections one?
I can't remember if that one... Yeah, that
one.
one's...
Can't even remember.
No, that one is objections. which I think just from like a behind the scenes perspective, I think you should always have an email in your launch sequence that speaks to the objections that people might have, or thoughts that if people are on the fence, they're going, oh my gosh, is it going to work for me? Or am I the right person for this? And so if you can find a way to speak to those objections and kind of put people's minds at ease about a big buying decision, I think that really helps. And then the last one is more of a personal story and just the idea of making a commitment to yourself. So yeah, that's kind of
that's the email plan. Social media stuff. So we still have Facebook ads going. I handheld on my phone recording some retargeting ads. So it basically just said like, hey, we're retargeting you. We know you went to BuyOurFuture. Just to be us and to try something. So we had ads that looked similar to this, where it's a little bit more polished. We're sitting in an area, like it's well lit, and we wanted to do something that we're
in an area.
Yeah, we're sitting in an area.
Okay.
But these are more like out and about, us being real people, because that's who we are. So I just thought we would try those. So
I find those particularly entertaining because you see people on like the streets of New York that are like doing that, and like people are passing them and stuff. But we live in California and in like a sleepy beach town, so it's just like us walking on the sidewalk near the ocean with palm trees behind us.
So we'll see how.
Look at us, we're out and about.
We'll see how those do. And actually, Seth, who's helping us with our Facebook ads, my buddy, said that he has changed the ads from conversion tracking to pixel purchase. If you know Facebook ads, then maybe this makes sense to you. For me, I was just like, I trust you. Whatever you're doing, I just trust you. So we'll see if that makes any difference. I have no idea. We'll do a full recap on the Facebook ad experience somewhere.
I know just enough about Facebook ads that
confuses you?
No, that like absorbs within me, but I'm like just on the outside of it, where I'm like, I don't really know what that means.
Well, yeah, I'm even
like
further,
you didn't lose me, but like I'm like, what does that mean? Yeah.
So you're going to post some entrepreneurial confessions on my Facebook page that I don't use anymore,
right?
Which is funny that you're kind of taking it over. It's not a joint Facebook account, but it's just kind of like
we're not one of those,
yeah.
But we kind of are.
Yeah. And then Instagram stories we had talked about. We've done just a bunch of random stuff, and I really have come to the conclusion that we don't have to do amazing Instagram stories, because I really think BuyOurFuture is amazing, so we don't need super creative things to attract people to it, as much as we just need to remind people. Selling a high-priced thing requires touch points. So it's the more times you can just show it to people, and if they're on the fence, or if they were thinking about it, or they got distracted by a week of things that are very distracting, they go, oh yeah, I did want that BuyOurFuture thing. These guys are crazy. I like them. Thanks for the reminder. I saw this thing. So we're doing that, and then I think that's really it for the rest of our plans for this week.
Yeah, the Q&A.
Yeah, the Q&A. We'll go over that on Thursday.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's it for that stuff. Now I just wanted to touch on partners, because I haven't talked about it yet in the video journal.
Life partners.
Is the BuyOurFuture affiliates is the word that everyone would really understand. I call them partners because I don't like the word affiliate. It just sounds icky to me. But we basically open it up.
MLM scheme.
Ugh.
Isn't that what that's called?
Okay. We open it up to all of the existing buyers to say, hey, if you want to help promote BuyOurFuture and get a cut of any sale you bring in, we're happy to have you do that. The one thing I wanted to bring up for this is that it's probably the least hard pitch for a partner ever. It's just like, hey guys, do you want to do this? Here's some stuff if you want it. Good luck. And I don't know if that's good or bad, but that feels good to me in the way of doing that. So I kind of put the onus on them if they want to promote it.
Yes, and I also want to point out, though, it's not like you're just, you kind of are skating over it here. It's not like you're just saying, like, here, go forth and do, like, you give them things to say, you give them images to use, you give them, like, more support than that. But I get what you're saying, which is that most people would really, like, they hit home the affiliate thing because it's really about, like, spreading that to their audiences and stuff. And you don't want to be pitching people on BuyOurFuture and then pitching existing customers on selling BuyOurFuture. So it's just walking that fine line.
And the way that I really like to approach it, and I don't know if this is helpful or not if you're selling a high price thing and you're thinking about affiliates or partners, which is why I wanted to bring it up, is I try and just have them lead with story. So what has your story been with BuyOurFuture? How has it helped you? What problems has it solved? What unforeseen things came about since you purchased? Share that with your audience, whatever that audience is. If it's emailing 5 people that you know, if you have an email list of 1,000 people, if you just want to post it on Facebook or whatever, don't just say, go check out BuyOurFuture, here's our link. That's not going to do anything. Right. Share your story. And that's where I think that it just becomes really powerful. And we've seen that the past couple times. I think last launch we had 6 sales through partners. I think the launch before that there were like 15 sales. So, which is great because it's a $2,000 product. So that's, you know, in the 5 figures of return on getting partners to do that. And then they get a cut, which makes some of their money back. So That's our partner update. Now a question from Twitter. So I asked a question about selling on Twitter and I got a bunch of responses. I'll kind of bring one or two into the videos the next couple days. But I wanted to bring up this one just because I thought it was interesting. So the question I asked was, what's your biggest worry or fear when it comes to selling? And Betsy wrote back, not vomiting because I'm so sick of myself most days. So Caroline saw this and she was like, are we really answering that question?
Well, it took me back a little bit.
I think this is interesting though. Whether Betsy meant it or not, I think it brings up a topic of, it can really feel incongruent to sell. Like,
Yeah.
it can feel like, I think especially, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but like, I know that when we first did Buy Our Future in the spring, writing the sales emails and selling, really like putting forth like, this is why you should buy this thing, can feel so just disparate from who you are as a person. And so I wanted to bring this up because I don't know if you have thoughts on how you've overcome that, because I feel like this time around, you have no qualms about it. Like, you're like, oh, let me, like, we're not talking about the why here. We're talking about the features. We need to stop talking about the features and like really hit pain points for people.
Yeah.
And explain to them why, because, you know, we're not reaching into people's pockets. That would be super weird. We don't have the technology for that. But
Yet.
we're just presenting it to people in a way that we feel kind of meshes with who we are.
Yeah. I actually have an article about this on Made Vibrant if you search selling.
Wow.
First, I think it's important to recognize why we feel that way. One of them is that I always go back to this image of like being in a mall and the people at the kiosks are like, here, like, come here, like, let me rub some weird lotion on your hand and get you to buy this like stuff that's going to be age defying and all this stuff. That is like my idea of people selling stuff to me. And the reason that that feels icky is because I didn't give that person permission to come into my space and sell me on that thing. I have to go to that store and I have to go, you know, past them on the way to the store and then they're selling me. So it's an interruption versus permission type of framework. And so I think just acknowledging that as a mindset and going, oh, wait a second, like, am I feeling icky about selling because that's my impression of selling? And if so, then I need to remind myself that I'm not doing interruption selling. I'm doing permission selling. So most of the selling that we do is via email, and those people have given us permission. They have sent their email addresses to us. They have said, hey, I would like to get more information from you. So you have to recognize that you're not that kiosk person who's trying to like rub lotion on their hands. That's number one. Number two, I always remind myself that I believe in what I'm selling. And if you don't believe in what you're selling, then you should feel icky selling it. So that's okay. But just to say, this can change someone's life. I do believe in the quality of the content. Like, all of those things are true about Buy Our Future. I think it is literally the best investment you can make online, because you're not just getting one program and it's one and done. You're getting two people who are going to create things for the rest of their lives. You're getting all kinds of very specific.
Sell it to them.
Well, yeah, here I am selling again because I'm like, oh, I believe in it. And so it becomes a lot easier to do that. And then also, this is like one that I always say to myself is I remind myself that the alternative to selling is not selling, which is not making money. So like, you just go to yourself, okay, if I, like, in what world can I live where I have a business that makes money in which I'm not selling things? It does not exist. So just remind yourself, like, when you go, oh gosh, I don't want to send this sales email, it feels so gross or whatever. A, do you believe in what you're selling? I hope the answer is yes. But B, the alternative is to not send that email and not make any money and be struggling forever. And then you can't give your gifts to the world and you can't, you know, inspire somebody else. So I kind of always go back to that, which is like, we sell Buy Our Future because it fuels our lifestyle, because we make things that hopefully improve people's lives. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't have too much to add other than just, I think selling is one of those things that if you don't come to terms with, you're always going to feel really bad about it, and you have to figure out how you come to terms with it. One thing that has tripped me up, and I think trips other people up, is if you're trying to apply the selling tactics of other people that don't feel congruent to you, you will always feel uncomfortable selling. So you have to figure out what feels congruent to you, which is the stuff that we do, like pausing something for a week, or being really honest. Like, we have a letter on the homepage of the Buy Our Future site that just speaks directly to people. And we do those things knowing that it will probably reduce conversions, because it's not selling the dream. We've talked about this before. It's selling the reality of what this is and what we're doing. So I just think it's finding those tactics that work for you and understanding I could squeeze more dollars if I did this certain thing, but we're not going to do that. We're going to do the things that align with who we are.
Yeah, and you have to ask yourself, if I get more revenue for this thing in a way that doesn't align with my values, to me, that's money I don't want, because
blood money.
That's blood money. I don't want that money.
That's vicious.
Ew, but you know what we mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, so we've just made that conscious decision. that we're not going to try to squeeze, like Jason said, every dollar if it means doing something that's out of our values. And so and also this is just our personality. We like to do things differently. We don't like to follow a blueprint. We like to bend things to the way that feels good to us, which means a lot of experimentation, a lot of things that work, things that don't. That's why during this launch and during this launch journal, you'll see us saying like, okay, we did this, like, because we're testing and we're seeing what works for us. But we're always going off of like what feels right and what feels good, which kind of goes back to the original question, which is that you shouldn't be sick of yourself. You should be selling in a way that you believe in what you're doing and that you're doing it in a way that
enjoy it as much as you can.
Yeah.
So let's wrap this journal up there. It just made me think tomorrow I want to talk about the idea of testing things, testing assumptions, like all these different things, because we do this every single time. We change something and then we look at it. And then I also had another thought that I want to talk about, like how we've kind of rethought what Buy Our Future is and what it can be, which is something to look forward to that we're not going to mess with now, but it's something to think about. So those are your 2 lead-ins for tomorrow's video journal. Hope you enjoyed this. Leave a comment or send us a tweet or whatever if you have questions about selling or launching. And thanks for watching.